Okay, we're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Barker, Cost, Bubb, Blake, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is a request for an appropriation in the amount of $2,500.
This is a payment by Licking Memorial Hospital, or a donation by Licking Memorial Hospital that's dedicated to peer support training for the fire department.
Motion.
I have a motion by Bubb, second by Cost. Any questions and or discussion from anyone? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $3,799.40.
Yes, we, as it kind of says, we've got an insurance check from paid off for some damage on our paint striping machine, and we did striping. We will put it back into that account.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Bubb, second by Barker. Any questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And with that, this Finance Committee meeting stands adjourned. Next up is service.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bubb, Blake, and sitting in for Mr. Lang is Mr. Barker. First, consider resolution number 19-89, authorizing the Director of Public Service to execute a contract for reimbursement of legal representation of indigent persons for calendar year 2020 with the Licking County Board of Commissioners for the City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Sasson, you have the floor, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is a standard annual piece of legislation we do to allow us to enter into contract with the county commissioners to be reimbursed for attorney fees for indigent defendants in municipal court. It is an emergency because the county commissioners have to wait until they get information from the state as to how much money they're going to be getting from various funds that are collected. They then do a resolution, send that to us. We have to have this resolution done then in a timely fashion to enter into contract with them. So,
Good enough. Any questions from the committee?
Motion.
Motion by Bubb. Seconded by Cost. Questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of sending this on to council for a vote signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Sasson. Up next, consider resolution number 19-90, authorizing participation and ratifying prior participation of the City of Newark, Ohio with the Department of the Army, Corps of Engineers, and the Ohio Department of Transportation for the design and construction of the City of Newark, Raccoon Creek, Licking County, Ohio, Section 14, the Emergency Stream Bank Protection Project, and authorizing the Director of Public Service of the City of Newark, Ohio, and other City of Newark officials to act for and on behalf of the City of Newark, Ohio, in executing, accepting, and otherwise approving all documents, agreements, instruments, or other necessary papers required by the Department of the Army to implement said participation in the project. Mr. Loomis, what did I just say?
We're going to try to make it a little bit longer, but we this is some standard legislation from the Army Corps of Engineers. We have a project. This has been an ongoing project for several years of some erosion on Raccoon Creek. It's basically at the exit, at the country club exit. If you look down over the hill, there's Raccoon Creek. There's a small cutoff dam, what they would call a control structure down there. And we happen to have a water line, a main water line, and a main sewer line that run through there. And that's part of that is to prevent erosion from that water and sewer line. But it's also it's also in there to avoid erosion along that bank, because if that eroded too far over, that exit ramp would be a problem. A couple years ago, we did some temporary work there to try with some riprap and put some blocks in there to try and preserve that. That has not worked as well as we thought it was going to be, but it gave us some time before we got to this project. And but we're at the point where we need to move forward with this. Fortunately, they're only asking for 35% of the cost of this, and just a little bit about the cost. They've estimated the cost at $4.7 million. That's with a huge amount of contingency in that number, because they're working in an active stream. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be flooding. It could be all kinds of things while they're working there. And so the Army Corps has put a bunch of estimates in there that we feel are almost extreme to the amount of money that it could be. But we just don't know what's going to happen. This really started out around the $1.5 million mark is where we thought the cost was going to come in at. Our cost estimate came in at 4.7, so we have to put those numbers into our system or into our program that we're going to be doing this. So, but we're going to be responsible for 35% of that. That would be water, wastewater, and stormwater would be paying this for this portion of that. So the Army Corps of Engineers will do the design, do the bidding. All we're doing is giving them some money and get the work done, and they'll get the work done. So
you're budgeting for 35% of $4.7 million.
We will be budgeting that, but it's probably going to be in the 2021 time frame. They got to design and then bid and then do the work, so it probably won't happen until 2021.
Okay.
But we got to get this going. This is the legislation that says yes, we're agreeing to move forward with this. And honestly, we have to move forward with that. If something happens to that water line and/or that sewer line, we're going to really be in some problems. So.
Okay. So if we were to budget for 35% of $4.7 million, which is going to be $1.6 million.
Yeah, I think I have the number in that paperwork I gave you.
Give or take, it's possible. And it ends up not being that. We're going to get a good portion of our $1.6 million.
Well, we're only going to pay a portion. I think we end up having to pay a certain percentage up front. We're going to pay $60,000 up front to get this thing started. We'll pay a little bit more before that. And then once the project gets going, then we'll pay after it's done is how it's going to work. So.
Okay. So we won't put out 1.6.
Well, we're hoping not to.
Unless it's necessary.
Yeah, unless something really goes crazy. But,
fair enough. Any other questions from the committee? Mr. Blake.
Mr. Chairman, Roger, I'm trying to look at the maps. Can you explain where the location of this is? The maps included are kind of blurry.
It's just off the exit of State Route 16 to Country Club Drive. I think it's the 13th or 14th hole there on the Country Club golf course, kind of over that bank there. It's down in there, and that's where the work will be done. So.
Any other questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? To the podium, name and address for the record, please.
Michelle Boland-Smith, 237 Violet Court. Related but unrelated, the area around Manning, where the bike route is, Manning Street Bridge, there's a lot of erosion there too. Is that being addressed?
This isn't necessarily particular to the legislation on
it's the same.
only because you use the word erosion is it related. So you can answer that with a simple yes or no, and then we can move on.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that, so I don't really know. I mean,
Okay,
we'll take a look at it, though. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? Incidentally, as a point of interest, I hope to never be in a position to look down that bank into that creek, just so you know. So all those in favor of passing this on to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. Up next, ordinance number 19-43, an ordinance amending chapter 618 and 672 of the codified ordinances of the city of Newark, Ohio to permit a controlled Canada geese hunting program within the city limits pursuant to the terms and conditions of the city of Newark Director of Public Service. Mr. Baum, interesting topic. Enlighten us.
Well,
For those of us who are goose
I just got enlightened myself, so I'm assuming the Director of Public Service in paragraph 6 is a typo. This is managed by, actually, Deputy Chief McKee of the Police Department, but it runs out of my office for deer hunting, and this is a part of the same ordinance for goose hunting. This is an addition to the deer hunting. allowing people to hunt geese within the city limits as long as you're approved by NPD. It's going to make it a misdemeanor of the first degree if you are violating the section. Obviously, same rules apply as far as discharging a firearm in the city limits. It's going to have to be on certain property under certain conditions, which will be made clear to the people when they try and register to hunt geese in the city, just like you have to hunt deer in the city. There are only certain people allowed to do it. You're only allowed to do it in
So we
certain
are allowing
places.
them to hunt geese with a firearm?
That is, this proposal is to allow people to hunt geese with a firearm inside the city, just like we allow people to hunt deer inside the city limits. Not with a firearm.
We don't allow them to hunt deer with a firearm. We allow them to hunt deer with a
Not
bow.
with, that's why I just, not with the firearm, but hunt inside the city limits. It is for your proposal. You can choose to do with it what you will.
Okay. Mr. Blake, you seem to have a burning question. Go ahead.
Well, this is a technical one for the chair, but if we're changing public services, public safety in the title, it also says public service in some areas in the legislation, so Autumn may need to make a technical amendment there. It does reference public service.
Would that have to come as an amendment?
Not necessarily. Those are just essentially typos on my part that can be corrected. We've done several drafts of this legislation, both with regard to hunting deer and hunting geese. This is the first one for geese that's come before council, and I just missed a couple places where I should have changed public service to public safety.
Okay. Could I ask when the first hunting season will
Couldn't answer that.
begin?
I have no idea.
So there, we don't
The
know
only
if it's-
thing I ever hunted was people. I've never hunted a deer or a goose in my life.
So we don't know if we're going to participate in the 2019, 2020 season, or if we're
I would
going to
imagine it would be
2021.
for the next season as long as it's not immediately. But I wish Deputy Chief McKee was here to answer your questions, but unfortunately he is not. And if you'd care to table this for another council meeting, I'll make sure he's here to answer all your questions.
Mr. Sheriff,
Mr. Blake,
I guess, is there an area of the city that's being, I guess, can you explain the need more to what's the,
I will.
where we have an excess number?
I will say, as a golfer, golf courses are overrun with geese at most times of the year, and they will make a golf course unplayable. So I can tell you, at least, I'm sure the trout club's having a problem. I'm sure that other people with large areas of property are struggling as well, but I can't give you individual addresses. No, I cannot. I wish I could.
Crystal Lake, there's a huge problem.
Okay. A large body of water, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, 5 o'clock at night, I can hear them going over my house.
I think Deputy Chief McKee is the person that can answer all these questions, but having had some conversation with him and with other members of my office, initially this was drafted because of a serious problem they're having at TJ Evans Park. And that was the initial intention, was to address city-owned parks only, and TJ Evans being the principal one. There have been larger landowners and landowners who are in a recreation business who are wanting to be have their lands included also. So we're going to, this will be set up so that there's sufficient area involved so that safety is maintained. And Deputy Chief McKee is very well familiar with that if you've dealt with him on the deer hunting program as well. But the main changes that we made this time before it came forward was to expand the scope of the available properties. But it's still essentially going to focus on recreational type properties because those are the only ones that really have the large enough area and present the problem that Canada geese bring into contact with human beings. So you're probably looking at, they call it Wildcat Park, and to be perfectly honest with you, I have no idea what Wildcat Park is. T.G. Evans Park and probably the Trout Club are probably going to be your three main locations. So if you have some in your backyard, don't call Deputy Chief McKee to come get rid of them, because your backyard's probably not big enough.
Well, I
I
guess,
could live it out on a daily basis, just sitting on my roof. Go ahead, Mr. Blake.
is it possible for us to have some of, can we have, I just don't understand the scope of the problem, so I guess it would, I mean, if the trout club's having an issue, I guess I'd like to hear from someone from the trout club or something, so, I mean, the
I'd
safety.
recommend you contact Deputy Chief McKee.
Okay. I mean, the safety
Absolutely.
director's offered to, that this is an immediate thing, so.
I do know that the season is rather limited, and we are rushing into this if we're going to do any hunting this year at all, and I don't know even if that's possible without an emergency clause, which I would prefer to pass on.
And
So-
frankly, I wouldn't concern myself with passing it with any immediate action in mind.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at the 2021 season as far as hunting, and I'm being familiar with the deer hunting program, we are still going to have to follow ODNR season restrictions. So we're not going to be able to get into geese outside of the season designated by ODNR. So I don't think we're going to be doing any of this until the fall of 2020. So if anybody would like to make a motion to table this and have Mr. Sergeant McKee, Captain McKee?
Deputy Chief.
Deputy Chief McKee, climbing up through the ranks, I can't keep up. If we can have him here the next time and answer our questions and give us time to review this, that'd be awesome.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I
Buff?
will, I know there's been a real issue with TJ Evans, as the law director stated. I'll make a motion to pass this on, and maybe if you want to put the key on the agenda for the next time, we can talk about it, but I'll make a motion to move this forward to council.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Cost. Before I call for a vote, and we don't have January.
That would be
January
6th.
Yeah, so before I call for a vote, on January 6th, if Deputy Chief McKee could plan on being here to at least allow us to have some discussion with him,
Yes, sir.
I would appreciate that, if that's possible.
Absolutely.
Just,
Mr. Cost has a question.
Were you looking for this? I mean, I don't know who to ask. Were you looking for this season? Was that the intent, or were you looking a year from now? Or
I think you already answered, I don't know.
I think this season's already over. So it's, like Mr. Rath said, we're subject to Department of Natural Resources hunting seasons. 2019 season is over, so you're talking about next fall.
never hunted goose, so I have no idea.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Blake?
so the motion before us is to move this on to full council?
It is. With the
And then we're going-
stipulation that we will have a discussion in Service Committee on January 6th, not in council, but in Service Committee, January 6th. And this would not be voted upon until Monday, January 20th. So if we want to amend or vote it down or whatever, we have plenty of time to have a discussion between now and then. Any other questions from the committee? Any other questions from the audience? Dee, you got your hand up first. Go ahead, Dee.
I had a long conversation today. 250 Water Street.
Thank you.
I had a long conversation with a wildlife officer today, and it is a problem. I think the sooner that we deal with it, the better off some people will be. I immediately was like, no, you can't have open season on geese. I mean, why are you doing that? My question would be, if it's a particular landholder, they get permission to take care of their own geese. The one thing I found out today was if you move them, they come back. And if they have babies there, the babies come back. So it's not just a matter of moving them. You may want to talk to Ohio Wildlife. It's very, and McKee as well. Very informative, so. And I was concerned about safety. If you have open season on geese, oh gee, I was trying to shoot the goose, but it came to your house. I'm sorry,
Yeah, keep in mind, nobody other than you has said anything about open season on geese.
Well, that was one of my
Nobody's-
questions about
nobody- yeah,
the
we're not-
details of it, so.
Yeah, nobody's
you know,
talking about
We
that.
have time to look into it. The wildlife officer was very informative, so that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I know personally, next question, come on up. I know personally from dealing with Deputy Chief McKee in the past on the urban deer hunting program, and I was very involved in that. I know that he is incredibly good at, well, first off, he's not only a police officer, but he's also a hunter, an avid hunter, and has been for his whole life. But he's also very detailed and very good at working with ODNR and with our county game warden, and making sure that this is all up and up. And we aren't allowed to even implement any type of urban hunting program for anything without the direct express approval of ODNR. So I'm comfortable getting information from Deputy Chief McKee, and I'm comfortable that what we get from him will be thorough.
Yeah, it's not just, you get to go out and take your BB gun or whatever. They have to get a permission and, I mean, there's a lot of things to go through before you're allowed to do that, so, thank you.
Up next. Next question. Who's up?
Stephen Smith, 237 Violet Court, Newark. Dee actually addressed a couple of the points that I was going to raise, and I appreciate that. I guess the one thing that remains in my mind is if this is an extermination program of some sort, what is going to be done with the birds that are shot? Are they the property of the people that shoot them? Are they going to be used for the food pantry, or is there something set up to do that?
If the geese are harvested, they would be the responsibility of the harvester.
Okay.
And the harvester has the decision, has the authority to make the decision to do whatever he pleases with the meat. They could eat it themselves, they could donate it to the food pantry, but that's strictly up to the hunter itself.
Okay.
Ms. Smith, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Rochelle Volan Smith, 237 Violet Court. I see all sorts of problems in terms of, in our neighborhood, there is a person that has a large property that does hunting in his backyard, which is very close to a lot of other houses, and the bullets actually do get into their yard during deer season.
Hold on a second. Let me ask for a point of clarification. So when you're talking about very close to I know you live on Violet Court, which is in an urban area.
Correct.
So you're talking about somebody who's currently hunting in your neighborhood.
I assume they have permission because
Are they deer hunting?
I believe so. It
If
comes
they're
in
deer
seasons.
hunting with permission, there are no bullets. There are no bullets. There are no bullets.
There's been rifles, and people have been complaining about
That would be illegal.
bullets coming into their backyards.
That would be illegal.
And
It should be
endangering
reported
their...
to police. That's a serious matter.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. There are no bullets
Because
allowed to be used
the parents
in-
are frightened to death.
Yeah. There are no bullets allowed to be used in the city of Newark for the purpose of hunting at this point.
Wouldn't there be an issue for that with the geese as well?
That is going to be addressed, and I don't.
And that would be
address that in
shooting up,
detail.
I assume.
And again, they're not using bullets, they're using shot. There's a difference in that.
Okay, it still hurts, and it could still do
Sure,
major
absolutely.
damage.
Sure, absolutely, but with restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, the only hunting that is allowed within the city of Newark at this point in time is deer hunting, and the only allowable weapon to use for deer hunting is a crossbow or a longbow.
Okay.
None of which require firing a weapon, firing a gun.
Okay, well, I have been hearing guns.
Yeah, none of which has any bullets involved at all.
And currently, I don't have children, and it doesn't affect my property per se, fortunately. But some other parents have complained about it, and are very frightened about it. And I imagine when they hear about this, they're not going to be too pleased. So I just, I think, and I think of Cheney. Dick Cheney and the problems that it caused for him. But I think this needs to be thought through, in terms of the potential
Absolutely,
harm.
and I feel very confident that Sergeant McKee has, and we'll hear about the restrictions. But I do want to remind you, if you hear firearms being shot in your neighborhood, please notify the police immediately.
I know who's doing it.
Then notify the police. That's illegal. They should not be firing off guns. It is allowable to fire a weapon in the city of Newark on your property, as long as the bullets do not leave your property, but it is not legal for you to fire that
They
weapon
claim they have a right.
at an animal.
They claim they have a right.
They can claim whatever they want. The law is law. They can claim whatever they want. The law is law.
Okay, thank you.
They can fire on their property as long as the bullet does not leave their property. That is legal, but they cannot fire a gun at an animal while hunting an animal on their property if they're in the city limits of Newark. That is not legal. I do know that for a fact.
Okay, I think
Mr. Sassen, am I incorrect?
Ask more questions.
Do you know?
A little more complicated. I said it's.
I can't hear you over Mr. Waldron's mumbling back there.
It's quite a bit more complicated than that, but I don't think we really need to get into it.
Okay. Mr. Hall?
Just, if it makes it a little bit more simple, the cover page of this ordinance is just to address that there is an issue and a problem. And if you look into the third page, they've added 6, 7, and 8 in bold letters just to address geese. It really doesn't mention firearms anywhere in any of this legislation. That's all within the hunting program that would be established as a result of this. And essentially including in the ordinance allows for any punishment for violators, like she's mentioning with rifles and something like that. So I'm going to say the program is a separate issue that we would talk about. This is just to add it in the legislation, that animal. So,
Fair enough.
okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? See no questions. All those in favor of passing this on to council signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
That passes 4-1. And that concludes the service committee. We will stand adjourned.
Personnel was canceled.
Huh?
Personnel was canceled.
Personnel committee has been canceled, and we will reconvene at 7 o'clock for council. Thank you.